Welcome to The Invisible Ingredient. Here we name a sobering truth. Glyphosate is everywhere. It's in the fields where we grow our food, it's in the rain that falls in our rivers, even in the breast milk of our mothers. It is quite literally inside us. So let's talk about it. Today we come back to the farm, to the land, to the animals, and to the land steward. And there's no better person to guide us than Will Harris of White Oak Pastures in Bluffton, Georgia. Will is a fourth-generation cattleman where his family has farmed since 1866. Trained in industrial agriculture, Will spent 2 decades raising cattle with chemicals, hormones and grain feed before rejecting that system in the mid-1990s. Today, Will is recognised worldwide as a leader in humane animal husbandry and environmental sustainability. And his farm stands as a living example of what's possible beyond industrial agriculture. This conversation isn't just about glyphosate, it's about the trap that big ag and big farmers set for farmers and what it takes to break free. I want to thank you for taking some time out to speak to me during the sacred wine time.
Thank you. I will make up for it. It'll be okay.
As a starting point, I think it's really important that we give people a sense of place. So I'd love for you to just share a little bit about where you are and what White Oak Pastures is.
I am sitting in the middle of White Oak Pastures, which kind of surrounds the little town of Bluffton, Georgia. I am actually sitting in the old courthouse that's been abandoned for many, many years. It's now my office. But this farm is 3,200 acres, and it's about 4.5 miles long and about 1 mile wide. And Bluffton, the town of Bluffton, is right in the middle of it. Bluffton has about 130 or 40 people. Just about everybody in Bluffton who works for White Oak Pastures. There are a couple school teachers and some others, but just about everybody that works. A lot of retired people. But my great-grandfather founded this farm in 1866 and farmed it, followed by his son, my grandfather, followed by his son, my dad, followed by me. And I'm being followed by 2 daughters and their spouses. And we've got a bunch of grandbabies who have not contributed yet, but I have high hopes.
I have no doubt that they'll be contributing in good time, Will.
I hope.
If we wind back a little bit, and if we can speak to, you once farmed in with conventional methodologies, what they would call the industrial model of farming. Could you share a bit of what that looked like, and also how glyphosate and agrochemicals were integrated into that system?
I will. So my great-grandfather and grandfather farmed this farm as a tiny little food chain. They produced livestock primarily and slaughtered every morning, 6 days a week before daylight. They would slaughter a cow or a couple of hogs or 100 chickens and sold the meat in Bluffton. This is before USDA inspection, before internal combustion engines, before refrigeration, before it was sell it or smell it. And they were successful. My dad was born in 1920, took over the farm post-World War II. And he really changed things under his watch. It went from a polyculture, many different species of plants and animals animals and birds, to a monoculture of only cattle. And he was very successful with that and farmed it that way all his life. And I never wanted to do anything except be a industrial cattle producer just like my dad. I went to the University of Georgia. I majored in animal science. That had previously been animal husbandry, but it had been changed to animal science, and rightfully so. But I graduated from the University of Georgia in 1976, and I came home and I farmed this farm as a very industrial monocultural cattle operation, just like my dad had. And we were successful. We never made a lot of money, but we were profitable every year. I went back and checked. I paid taxes every year that I farmed industrially. But that started in '77. By the mid '90s, into the '90s, I was disenchanted with that management system, and I started to do it differently. And when I started to do it differently, it was purely that, just different. I did not say I want to go back to a model that resembled my great grandfather and grandfather, but that's what happened. That's where it went. But I gave up chemical fertilizer, pesticides, GMOs. I gave up subtherapeutic antibiotics. I gave up hormone implants and all the other tools, and started doing it very differently. And I had to really figure it out. I was a pretty good industrial cattleman, but I had to figure out how to do it. And 25 years later, we're still figuring it out, but it has returned to profitability, thank goodness, and it provided a livelihood that was attractive enough that two of my three daughters and their spouses came back here. I'm the fourth generation. There would not have been a fifth generation had I continued to operate industrially. I didn't forbid them to come back, but they just had no interest in it. But when I changed things, they liked it and wanted to be part of it. I did not recruit them. They wanted to come back.
Yeah, what a beautiful reflection of that transition, huh?
And then it's truly not why I did it. I did it for far more self-serving reasons. I didn't like it anymore. But I'm delighted with the outcome that it brought about.
I get a sense that there's a lot of farmers that don't feel they have a choice but to rely on their chemical inputs.
Let's be clear. I'm sorry.
No, please. I'm interested to hear from you. Is it a trap? Is it a model that is really hard to transition out of? Like we get taught to do something, and if you want to move away, how challenging is that really?
It's really challenging, and you nailed it. My friends and neighbors, this is a purely agrarian economy where I am. Everybody farms. And my friends and neighbors and relatives who farm here farm industrially, as I used to. And they believe that what they're doing is right because it's what the land-grant university tells them, it's what the county agent tells them, it's what the certainly the pesticide and fertilizer companies and pharmaceutical companies tell them, and so they're good people, they're wonderful people, but they're doing what their dad did, their granddad did, and they think it's the right thing to do. But the main reason that they won't transition is they economically cannot. Do you know that a cotton picker cost $1.6 million? Did you know that? And all these guys own a cotton picker that costs $1.6 million, and it won't do a stinking thing but pick cotton. And they own an interest in the cotton gin, and they own an interest in the cotton warehouse. So they're very vertically integrated, and pretty much all of them would have borrowed money to invest in the cotton picker and the gin and the warehouse. So they've got to use it to service the debt. So you got a bunch of good guys, really fine people that think they're doing the right thing and cannot. If they didn't think they were doing the right thing, they probably couldn't afford to get out of it. When I first started transitioning, I was far too critical of my friends and neighbors and relatives. I said too much. But I now understand why it is the way it is.
Yeah, I live here in Australia and see exactly that same story. There's a lot of people that have a sense of wanting to transition, but just don't see a pathway to doing that, just because of all those, a system that's really controlled them and set them on this precedent, which is almost impossible for them economically and also culturally to make that transition. So it really is a courageous and maybe you need to be a little bit naive to the realities of it, but it is a courageous feat, right?
It was naivety, not courage, that caused me to do it. I simply didn't think it would be that hard. I had farmed for 20 plus years, 25 years. I had made money every year I farmed. I didn't make a lot of money, but I profited every year. I had no debt. I was financially comfortable, not wealthy, but comfortable. And I simply didn't think it would be that hard, but it was. And we have a 501c3 nonprofit to educate people, and we do a lot of that. And my coworkers, my daughters, my in-laws, my coworkers scold me a little bit because they say I sound like I'm trying to discourage people who are considering transitioning. I'm not trying to discourage them. I want to encourage them, but I don't want to trick them. And the fact is, while I'm very proud of what we did, very happy with the result of it, I may be the happiest person on the planet. I very well may be. But there's a tremendous amount of risk, and where I am today is not way more profitable than where I was previously. Today, in my previous role as an industrial farmer, I was casting off costs for others to bear. We can talk about that all day long. But there's a dead zone in the Gulf of Mexico, about 80 miles down the cross country here. And all the chemicals and fertilizers and other products that I and others used have caused a dead zone to be where it was a thriving oystering area. And I won't pay for that. Everybody pays for it. And I can go on and on with the unintended consequences that I cast off for others to bear. And today my farm is profitable, but it's subtly profitable. We got a lot of equity, and we think we're pretty good at it, but it's still not highly profitable because we're bearing all our costs.
But your conscience is a lot cleaner.
Yeah. Well, my conscience was okay back then. I just didn't know any better.
Yeah. You only know what you know, right? I think a lot of people forget that that chemicals don't just stay in the soil; they move through our water systems, and farmers and farming families live with that every day. Has there been anything that you've noticed being post-industrial, like around your health, your family's health, and community health?
We are in an area of the country that's farmed intensively, and there's a lot of cancer. There's a lot of other problems here. Somebody like Zach Bush can respond to that far better than I can. The problem is, and this is the problem. We use these products today, but the benefit shows up today, but the ugly manifestation comes in a decade or two. So you just don't see what you're doing to your health or to the land or to the ecosystem. All these benefits that we're trying to kill that pest, that target pest. And you put it out, it's highly efficacious. It killed that target pest immediately. But the negative unintended consequence was very slow to show up. But make no mistake, it does show up. I'll tell you this. when I was farming industrially, my goal was to maintain a monoculture of whatever it was I was growing that year, that crop. Maintain a monoculture. Nature abhors a monoculture. And I would use pesticide. Homicide means kill people, right? Side means kill. I use pesticides indiscriminately to solve any problem I had. I think I was a very good industrial farmer, and I went to my fields every day, and I overtly was looking for something to kill. A pest, animal, plant, insect, fungus, bacteria, disease. I was looking for something to kill. And I knew what would kill it. I knew what pesticide, fungicide, herbicide, insecticide would kill what I targeted. And what I didn't understand for a long time, but came to understand, is those products were highly efficacious on killing that target. But they all kill some other stuff too. And every time I used a pesticide, it caused me to have to use another pesticide because I'd broken the cycles of nature. I'll talk about that in a minute. But every time I used a pesticide, it caused me to use another pesticide, which caused me to use another pesticide and another pesticide. And I don't believe that the first people that marketed pesticides were so visionary that they said, okay, here's the business plan. We can sell this product, we'll sell another one, and another one, and another one. I don't think they were that visionary. But at some point they noticed it. And I think that today, that's the way it works. I think that today, whether it's a pharmaceutical or a pesticide, it has a desired effect that's fairly quickly observed, and it's got unintended consequences that are not so quickly recognized, and it opens the market to keep selling another one and another one and another one. Excuse me. During that portion of my life, my goal was to kill stuff, and I thought of myself that way. I knew. That's what I thought. I'm here to kill everything except what I want to live. And now it's 180 degrees from that. I don't want to kill anything that's naturally occurring in my ecosystem. I believe that every plant and animal, insect, microbe in an ecosystem has a role there, a symbiotic role. We all know, we learn in the third grade that bees pollinate flowers and make honey, and that's great. I think that's true with every species out there. They all make a contribution, but we just can't see it. And I don't know how much science it would take to figure it all out. I don't know if we're capable of it, and I don't care. I don't need to know. I just know that if I keep all of the living beings that's supposed to be in that ecosystem thriving, it generates an abundance. And the abundance is what I sell to make my living. The cycles of nature generate an abundance. The energy cycle from the sun, the water cycle from the rain, the microbial cycle, the mineral cycle, cycles we probably don't even recognize. The whole planet was a Garden of Eden. We talk about where was the Garden of Eden. The whole thing was a Garden of Eden because it was generating an abundance. If you think about all that coal and oil and natural gas that we've been living on for the last 100 years, that was the abundance of the cycles of nature from the era of the dinosaur. It was rocking and rolling back then. I'd like to have seen it. And today we've used pesticides to the point that we have adversely altered the cycles of nature. Now, as soon as we're all dead in 2 or 3 million years, it'll be fine. It'll be all right. But right now, we're actually causing a lot of problems that will have a payback period.
It no doubt will, and that is the karmic effect of cause and effect, right? We may not see it right now, but downstream, what we leave for future generations, we need to take accountability and responsibility for. And I think it's a moment in time where we have that opportunity to do so, and I think you're probably shining a light on that potential.
Well, I'm old enough to remember when big tobacco advertised on TV, and just about everybody smoked or dipped or chewed, and nobody. And I believe that big tobacco knew for a long, long, long time before it was exposed that tobacco is not good for you, has an ill effect on your health. And I think that's where we are with these pharmaceutical companies, drug companies, others, technical companies now, is they're causing harm, probably knowingly, but they're just making so much money on it that they can't. And it's just particularly insidious because the product they sell generates the need for another product. I mean, it's just on and on and on.
Was there anything in your transitory time, like when you made some of those bold decisions or naive decisions, as you may have alluded to, was it a series of moments, or was it a moment that you realised that this isn't for me anymore? This is not the path I want to be on, and what I'm interested to see, to hear from you what was that impulse, what was that catalyzing, energy that was generated?
There are three things that we are about. We're about the land, and that's the land, the environment, the land, the water, the air. We're about the animal welfare, and we're about the rural renaissance of this little town. That's the three things that I think I'm good at, that I think I'm an expert in, that I have actually done stuff and seen it work. And the first one was the animal welfare. It's no more important than the others. It was just more apparent. I used to load double-decker semis. I could put up to 100 calves weighing about 500 pounds apiece on it. And there's two decks, one on the top, urinating and defecating on the ones on the bottom. And they'd be on there for 30 hours without food or water or rest. And I'd done it. I did it when I was a kid for my dad. I'd done it as an adult for years, and it was fine until it wasn't fine anymore. It just, for whatever reason, became apparent to me, this is not right. And so that very quickly after I made that realization, I realized that what I'm doing to the land is not right either. I can remember going to a field that I could take you to, and we worked the land, disked it. We do what we call mold turning plow. We just turned the whole thing upside down. A lot of chemical fertilizer, a lot of pesticide, monocultural production that had been done for, I did it, my dad did it, been done for years. And walking into the edge of the woods, 50 feet away, and just looking at that dirt from the field and the soil from the forest. And the only difference was what I'd done. So that was the second. And the third one is the rural community, and that took a lot longer. These towns here really started going down economically, becoming impoverished after World War II. I'm sure it was some before that, but that's when it really increased. And I was born in 1954, and so I was raised with the town in decline, and I didn't question it. I didn't remember the heyday. And it was just a way of life. That's just what happens. You get old and towns decline. That's what happens. So I didn't worry about it. When I changed the way I farm, I went from 4 minimum wage employees to today we got about 170, and I am in Clay County, Georgia. In 2020, it was the poorest county in America, lowest income county in America. And I started buying houses and lots and storefronts in this town to have a place to put my people. And when you bring a bunch of people together, I got great employees. I got fantastic employees. And when you bring people like that together, they need a place to eat and drink and sleep and play. So I provided that. I bought storefronts and put in a restaurant and lodging and grocery store and laundromat and whatever they needed, I provided for them. If I could break even on it, that was perfect. That's just great. I was doing it to keep the employees coming and happy. And anyway, I did that, and then no intention of renovating the town. But I remember I had a salesman here one time after I was well underway with that. I didn't buy what he was selling, but when we got through, he said, "This is a nice little town." And I was waiting for the punchline, and he meant it, and it was. So,
wow, what an incredible, an incredible place you seem to have created. Not only, and I think it seems I'm getting the sense that the big change was relationship, like relationship to your animals, relationship to your landscape, relationship to your community has been this driving force behind this incredible reimagination of what's possible for your local region and the people that exist there.
I don't know how it is in Australia, but in the United States, rural agronomic economies are the towns are going down. It's particularly obvious here because this town only had an agrarian economy. It never had a factory or a mill or a plant. Mm-hmm. It's just purely agrarian. So the decline was steeper. And there are all kinds of government programs to church programs and all kinds of programs to restart these failed economies. And that's just. And I've not seen one work, but here it worked, and I didn't have a lot of money to put into it. I mean, it wasn't that I did not have a lot of money to invest in it. I took what profit I had and invested in it, and it was highly efficacious. It worked really, really well, and I just would like to see that emulated again because it's highly replicatable. You don't need a lot of money to do it.
I think that's one of the most exciting possibilities and offerings that what you've created can bring. I spent 2 years traveling around this country here and spending a lot of time in farming communities, sitting around generational farm tables, getting a sense of where Australia's at. And what you've seen happen there is happening here. We are losing our rural communities. They're falling to pieces. You lose a butcher, and then you lose, the local store, the hardware store, and suddenly the people have to drive 2 hours to get their needs, and you just lose. It seems to be this domino effect that's happening throughout the country, and what you've created would be such a beautiful case study and blueprint to reinvigorate possibility for some of the communities here. So it really is quite powerful.
Well, and the why is easy to see. I've told you that our business is pretty consistently profitable, but it's a low return. It doesn't make a lot of money, but it's profitable. And I don't know what it is in Australia, but I think and I hadn't looked it up lately, but I think USDA says that Americans, a dollar spent for food, 15 cents or 14 cents makes it back to the farm. Here, if I sell it in my store, cook it in my restaurant, 100 cents of it goes back to the farm. Now that makes it seem like I'm really, really profitable. I told you I'm not, and I'll show you the financials. It's okay. But what happens is the money stays here. I mean, I don't necessarily make a lot of profit, but the 170 employees I got get paid. My payroll is over $100,000 every Friday, and that money stays here. Yeah, they order some stuff on Amazon, stuff like, but mostly the money stays here, and that's just so much the way it ought to be. And that sucking sound of the money leaving the rural community is what put us in the condition we're in.
It's almost like you've replicated a natural system. Like you've got our water function cycle, our nutrient cycling. Now you've got economic cycling happening back in your region.
That's very astute of you. I usually say that. That's exactly right. We humans, for whatever reasons, tend to want everything to be so linear. And there's just a lot of stuff that's not meant to be linear. And this
like
is
life.
A lot.
I'd love you to paint a picture for the audience to tune into around what was before and what you see now on the landscape, like your animals, your plant diversity. Because what I'm imagining is that you've found, species that you've never seen before or didn't know that, they've come, because that tends to happen when you get out of the way in nature in some ways. So I'd love to hear from you, Will, about what does it feel like on the land now? Like, and I'm sure it's such a bloody joy to get out there every day and feel that.
It is. You are a very good interviewer. You ask all the right questions. I'll just tell you that. This farm, I love the term teeming with life. This farm is teeming with life. It's just everywhere, and it's very noticeable. People come, they come here and they stay, and we move cattle every single day. We move from pallet to pallet to pallet to pallet, and when we do, the cowbirds and the cattle egrets and the curlews, I mean, it literally, they dim the sun. So many of them following those cows out there. It's like you're under a little shade just for a little bit. And they're just eating, they're symbiosis. They're eating all those insects. They're eating the grasshoppers that eat my grass. They're eating the flies that eat my cows. Symbiosis is just so clear. I used to give cattle wormer for internal parasites. Every time I shut them up, I'd spray them for flies and give them a wormer. And when you give a cow a wormer, that wormer stays in that feces when they defecate, and when the dung beetles lay eggs in that treated manure, they won't hatch. And I had forgotten what dung beetles look like. I mean, I'd seen when I was a kid, I saw them, but I just forgot about them. And I can remember the day I was driving my Jeep through the pasture, and I saw where they had worked the cow manure, put that dirt in the top of it. I slammed on brakes, and now we just got dung beetles everywhere. And dung beetles prevent flies. They work that manure, and it's not nearly as good a habitat for horn flies and face flies. And dung beetles burrow, these we have, burrow down about 18 inches and pack that and lay the eggs in the bottom and pack it with the richest part of the manure, and that keeps the fertility from stratifying. It goes so. I can tell you so many examples. Frogs, just all kind of things you see that that I'd forgotten about. I saw them when I was a kid, but I'd gotten so heavy-handed with pesticides that I would. And then and every one of those creatures, I believe, are contributing to the ecosystem. So some of them we can see, some of them we can't. Don't mean I can see. I don't know what a lot of those things are doing, but I bet they're doing something.
No doubt. Mother Nature's been doing this for some time, and it seems to me the older I get, the more I see that everything has a purpose, and everything works healthier in unison and harmony with other creatures. Like it's not an individual story. We need to do this with the plant and animal kingdom.
I've fallen out of love with university education. I'm a candidate. I'm a product of it. But when I was, and the college professors were just very respected. It was a very austere position. And my soils professor knew all there was to know about soils. He didn't know a doggone thing about animal nutrition. And I can go on and on. All the disciplines, those professors were just so expert. They were saying they knew more and more about less and less. And I don't think they understood how it all works together. It's like watching a baseball game through a wooden fence with one board missing. And all you can see is what you can see, and you have no idea what the rest of it's about. And when I was younger and meaner, I'm not mean anymore. I used to enjoy having experts come to the farm, and I'd say, I got a problem, and maybe you can tell me what it is. And if he was an entomologist, it would be an insect. If he was a nutritionalist, it would be something that was not being fed. And it just always amazed me how everyone I asked, every expert I asked about a problem, took it to their discipline. And, the same problem, 6, 8 people give you 6, 8 answers.
I mean, hats off to those people, but they live within a reductionistic model.
No.
And it's really hard to, I get it. It's really hard to see that complexity that is the reality of existence here on Earth.
Well, I think that to do what I do successfully, you've got to be a generalist and not a specialist. And you've got to take some things just for granted that I don't know why it does this, but when I do this, it has a desired effect. So I'm going to keep doing that. And we still have inquiring minds, and we try a bunch of different things, and some of them work and some of them don't. And if it works, we emulate it. If it doesn't work, we don't do that anymore. And it's fine. It's made us better and better at what we do.
That's such great advice. If it works, then keep doing it.
If it doesn't work, don't do that anymore. It's one of the things that's amazed me in my old age is how many people just can't stand to say they made a mistake or they got something wrong. And for whatever reason, it doesn't bother me a bit. I mean, I run this farm. I'm the one that says, let's do it this way. And it doesn't, I would like for everything I do to work out well, but it doesn't. And it doesn't bother me a bit to say, oh, bad idea. Whoa, that ain't working. Y'all help me fix this. Help me clean this up. And it just doesn't bother me. And And if I had employees that it wouldn't bother, I would not be mad at them. I would respect the fact that they made a call and followed it closely enough. They recognized it didn't go as planned. But people struggle with that.
They do, and I at my ripe age now, I welcome those errors because when I reflect upon all of them that I've had in my life, they've been the points in my life where I've evolved and grown.
Yeah. How old are you?
I'm 55.
55? Mm-hmm. You're a child. I got boots older than
that. Yeah, well, sometimes I feel 55, but my heart is still very young. I'm happy to say.
Yeah, I feel good.
I want to zoom out for a moment and just talk a little bit to the audience about the role of sort of big ag, big pharma. We touched on it earlier, but just maybe reiterating how we see these behemoths in these industries creating and maintaining that. There seems as if that we don't get the support for what you're doing. They don't see that what you're doing is in their business model. And I'm interested to hear from you, is there an antidote for that? Is there a pathway that you could help illuminate for others to follow?
Let's see how to say that. I've been watching this. I've made the same observation. I've been watching it for a long time, and there's several things I can say about it. One is these people, big ag, big medicine, big pesticide, big whatever it is, they are so skilled at delivering the message. I mean, they are brilliant. I mean, and they don't mind changing their cadence. They don't mind. They just do a fantastic job convincing the public of whatever they want the public convinced of. And I have changed my position a number of times through the years. There have been times that I said, I am what they call an early innovator. And I am doing these things, and more people are going to do it, and it's going to be better. And then I've been through long periods of time when I said, no, I'm not an early innovator. I am a niche marketer. And I'm okay with either one. I prefer to be an early innovator because that way I can help more people. But if I'm a niche marketer, it's okay, as I'm just going to feed my people. Not and it's come and gone. And I've seen it. I mean, I felt both ways during different times, ongoing. And I guess today I feel a little bit more like an early innovator as opposed to a niche marketer than I did 12 or 24 months ago, mostly because there's more conversation about make America healthy again and whatever else on this side of the water. I don't know what you're talking about on your side of the water, but there's a lot of that conversation going on here. And I don't know. I mean, I can decide again. I'm a niche marketer, and I don't like it as good, but I mean, we've been doing this a long time. We sell about $30 million worth of product a year. We're not trying to go to 35. I don't really want to do 30, but I spent so much money. I own a USDA inspected red meat processing plant, and a USDA inspected poultry processing plant, and a bunch of other stuff that was infrastructure that I built to vertically integrate my business so I could serve my public. And it simply requires us to do about $30 million worth of business a year to do that. We as a family, we've had the discussion, do we want to keep growing this business or not? and the answer was not. We're not trying to put together a company that we can sell to somebody. We're putting together a company that we can run generationally. And the fact is, if we were much bigger, we would probably have to hire a CEO to run it for us. And I can tell you, we would be constantly at odds, because that CEO, understandably, no matter who you got, would be focused on the monthly profitability, quarterly profitability, annual profitability. And we are focused on generational. We do a lot of things here that, make a lot of investments here that we know is not going to pay for itself on an annual basis or even a decade. We're doing it for the next generation. We plant trees. We plant oak trees. So literally. So I think that, and I also think that for a long time, business has been driven by scale. It was linear and scale. And I told you this is cyclical, and not only is it not scale oriented, I think you can scale yourself out of business pretty quick.
If you took the gloves off and were to give advice around what's required, like I definitely think you're an early innovator. There's no doubt. And I hope that realizes itself as truth, because that means that, this starts to spread. We start to see the shift nationally and globally to better ways of growing our food and coming into relationship with our lands. Like, what do you think it would take economically, politically, culturally, for, even if it was just farmers to break free, or just to, is there low-hanging fruit we can look at just to introduce into our systems where it does become less of a challenge? Economically, is there policy, and is there a cultural shift that needs to happen?
Yeah, the answer's all the above. We're pretty much doing everything wrong to procreate this kind of deal. We could take a lot of different approaches to it. Probably the first thing I'd address is land ownership or land access, and I think that in Europe, generations ago, the culture was to leave the estate to the eldest son, and I think that's very sexist, and I think there's a lot wrong with that. But leaving the estate intact was brilliant. Now, I'd have given the youngest son and the daughter a chance, but I think it's a good. I think it's a good idea to leave the estate intact. I have so many friends and neighbors and relatives that have 1,000 acres of land and 6 children, and everybody gets 200 acres of land, whatever that divides out to be, and that means none of them can farm. I mean, maybe of the 6 children, you got 1 or 2 back there trying to farm, and the others have moved to wherever. But they all inherit equally because it's just fair. Well, I am not big on fair. I think that it really puts people in a position where acquisition of land, and land is so expensive. Land is a non-depreciating asset, and there aren't many. Land, precious metals, jewels. They say art. I don't get that, but there aren't many non-depreciating assets. And when you go to the bank to buy land, they want you to pay for it in 15 or 20 years. Well, it's not depreciating. It's going to last forever. And there's the modern banking causes that to be very problematic. We could talk about other things. There are other things that were a solution to it. We're grazing about over 2,000 acres of solar voltaic arrays that I do not own. That's in addition to the 3,200 acres here. And we have a relationship with this solar voltaic array. I'm not a super advocate of solar voltaic arrays, but if you're going to have them, it's a lot better to graze them than it is spray them with Roundup and mow them and whatever else goes with that. So that's a really good way for young people to I think, that don't have land to get in. And there are other innovative ways it can be done.
Yeah, wow. This podcast and this series of podcasts, we'll speak to 10 different people to unpack, glyphosate, agrochemicals, and what does a post-chemical agriculture really look like. What our idea is and this is kind of a preamble to a bigger campaign, an awareness campaign, because we want millions of people to know what goes into their food. Mm-hmm. We don't feel as if people can even say the word glyphosate, let alone know what it is and how ubiquitous it is across all of the globe. And we have a sense that if people understand why it's here, how it got here, and the harm that it does, that we might be able to change a few minds and we might help people have some form of discernment when it comes to purchasing their food and understanding where their food actually comes from and who grows it. So I want to ask you a question. If we're successful with this campaign and we get millions of people turning towards better practice agriculture and nutritious food, do you think that is going to help change the dial and the transition for farmers and help our food system come back into harmony and leave a better future for our children?
Yes, but I think it's going to be harder than you think it is. I don't know how hard you think it's going to be, but it's going to be very hard. When I was a young man, I would be asked to go to Washington, D.C. to lobby for something. I mean, I wasn't a lobbyist, but as an industry part of the leadership, I would be asked to go, and I would go a lot of times, a number of times. And I would go into the senator or the U.S. representative's office, and he or she would be there with 3 or 4 young aides, kids, and he or she would kick the meeting off and usually leave me in there with them, and I would pontificate for hours on what I thought ought to be done, and they would write down every word I said. I mean, they would just, and what I didn't realize for a long time is that when I left, a lobbyist would show up with a briefcase full of money, and those notes they took didn't amount to much. So I think that in this country, you're in Australia, I don't know, maybe different there, but I think in this country, the political clout that the enemy has is great, and we discussed the fact that the farmers are not vehemently opposed to what those chemical companies and others are doing, because that's how they make their living. So if we see change, I'm not sure we will, but if we see change, it's going to be consumer driven. Now, there's no question about that. It will not come from land-grant universities. It will not come from big food companies. It won't come from pesticide companies, equipment companies, the extension service. It will only come from consumers. Now, what I don't know is can you get that kind of consumer impetus going? I'm a farmer in Georgia. I don't know about all that, but if you can get that much consumer push, then it'll change. And if you can't, it won't change.
that gives me a great amount of hope, and also the realization of we as an organisation must contain or continue with our naivete because we all need an impossible dream, and this is ours right now.
No, and I'm not telling you it can't work. I'm just telling you that that's the only way it's going to work. And I've been out here a long
And
time. I've been here a
I
long
absolutely agree with you as well.
Mm-hmm.
I absolutely agree, and that gives me a sense of beautiful hope, because I think what we're about to deliver will shift some hearts and minds around their relationship to their food. If you could sit down with a farmer that feels a little bit stuck in the system, what could you tell them from your own journey that may assist them in alleviating that strain, that stress, that stuckness?
Well, I would first acknowledge to him it's going to be very, very difficult for you, for him or her. I want to know a little bit before I want to know a little bit about where they are in terms of business, how committed they are to that industrial model. As we talked about before, ownership in the next step and the next step and the next step, because that matters. Ultimately, what I would want to convey to them is it's the best thing I ever did, but it's not the easiest thing I ever did. It brought my children back.
That's I get the sense when you said that it's allowed for so much more than you ever considered would be possible from a farming or landscape perspective, because it's allowed a pathway for your family to remain a beautiful family unit and offer them purpose and passion and all of those intrinsic values and needs that we can't ascribe to a ledger or a computer spreadsheet.
Early on, I told you I was the happiest man on the planet. You laughed, but I wasn't kidding. I am.
That's incredible, and such a beautiful notion to hear, mate. Will, thank you for your honesty. Thank you for your courage, and thank you for the example that you've created there as a blueprint for people to see what's possible. Not only for your animals, your landscape, your business, but also for you as a human here on Earth, having a human experience, and for your loved ones. You're creating a legacy that will be enjoyed well beyond your time here, and I think that's something that we don't look at enough. It's been super inspiring to hear this journey that you are still on. And I'm in such appreciation for you giving us the time and your energy and just to sit with us and share some of that today, mate. It's been a true honour. I've watched from a distance, and I've looked forward to a moment where I can see your head on a screen and have a conversation with you, mate.
I've enjoyed the conversation. You really are a very good interviewer. I've been interviewed a lot. And sometimes when it's over, I said, that is a waste of time. But you did a great job.
Will, thank you for your honesty, your courage, and your example. You've shown us that glyphosate isn't just a story about chemicals. It's about farmers, families, and the future of food. And thank you to all our listeners. Over the last 4 episodes, we've journeyed through the hidden story of the secret ingredient and how it affects our bodies, entered our food system, and reshapes our environment. And today, how farmers can break free and create a different future. This is the Secret Ingredient podcast brought to you by Farmers Footprint. Until next time, may we keep listening to the land, caring for the farmers who feed us, and imagining a world beyond glyphosate.